Guitars for Bars. I'm your host, James. Today, the leveling begins on Ben's Jackson RR3 Sparkle V guitar. Just a refresher, here is the sparkle. It is very sparkly. Texture-wise, there is a little bit of it right there. So we're going to start sanding it with 400 grit 3M paper and this new sanding block I've got. I've made this one out of a piece of acrylic that I had. I think I mentioned that in one of the other videos. I've got enough to make a couple more for me and probably 12 of them to sell. It is 3 inches by 1 3/4 inches by a 1/2 inch thick. And it actually works perfect with one of these strips of sandpaper. When you roll it up, it fits perfect. So a sheet of sandpaper is 9 inches wide. So you get 3 strips out of it. So that's usually takes pretty much the whole strip to do the whole guitar one time. So that's 3 leveling procedures I can get out of 1 sheet of sandpaper and this fancy block. So we'll be making some of these, and I will offer these for sale. It's probably going to be a little while. I got other things to do yet before I get to that, but I am going to cut a bunch of them up, and then you'll be able to order them from me through my website or something. I'll figure that out later. If this is the first of my leveling videos you've ever seen, I also use this piece of foam for areas like this part back here that are going to be curved, because this stiff block won't do that curve very well. You have to use a stiff block like this because you're going to be swirling around on here, and the idea is to keep this top as perfectly flat as you can possibly keep it. So a good stiff firm block like that is really important, and this one works better than the thin one that I was using because I couldn't get a grip on the sides of it with the sandpaper. So now I can. I got something to grip on, so it'll work real good. And I also use an X-Acto knife to dig out little specks of dirt, which I've got a couple little specks here. I've got one, now where'd it go? One's right here. See it? Little bitty tiny black speck. Another little black speck right there. So I'm just going to take the tip of this and I'm going to dig that out, and then I'm going to scrape it sideways to kind of smooth it out a little bit. So I'm not going to show that because I don't have my phone on a tripod and it'll just be a mess. But I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'll show you the spots after I get them cleaned out. Both of those specks were right on the surface, so they're gone. It didn't take much digging. Sometimes I've got to dig quite a bit out, but I can't even find where they were. So I move on. Also, no matter how good you tape the inside section here, you're probably going to end up with a little bit of paint over the edge that needs to be removed. Now I've got this dandy little knife from, turn it that way, you can see what it says. From Columbia River Knife and Tool. It's sharp, it's made out of good steel. It's got this little handle on it. Sometimes I use it as a scraper or a digging tool like that. This particular curve in the blade cuts things really well, especially shaving, sharpening pencils. And for this particular use, I like to hold it like that with the blade up. That way I can get in there with that straight edge and carefully scrape that edge just like that. Now you could use a straight razor blade or something, but razor blades are thin, they tend to break. Razor knives, same thing. Those blades are thin, they tend to break, and sometimes the handles themselves, they don't hold it very good. So you need a good sturdy little knife like this to do this with. And you can get this at any decent knife store or order it online. This one was like 25 bucks. They also make a curved blade. I haven't really needed to get that, as I needed that Tonto point there. I have soaked my 400 grit sandpaper in my little pan of water. dish pan from Walmart, Sterilite. They're like $1.88, something like that. You can use anything that you want to use. Tupperware, a bucket, whatever. Anyway, you want to get your sandpaper wet, but you don't want it dripping all over, so it's a good idea. You're going to have, what I've been doing is I got one rag for wiping the sandpaper on and drying it off, and another rag for wiping the guitar itself to get the excess off. Now, I'm not going to get real crazy with this today because this has only got 2 rounds of clear on it. So I just want to knock a little bit of this high stuff off before I put the next coat on. So I'm going to be doing it mostly in a circular fashion like this. Sometimes in harder areas, I may do a little bit of straight sanding, but I also crisscross. Let's say right over here. I know I've got a little bit more glitter right here in this area. It was a little rougher. Took a few more coats of clear. So I'll do some circle there. If it gets a little bit tough, I'll go like that, back and forth, especially if I'm in a hurry. And also, if you go one direction, you got to go another direction. It's a good idea to crisscross it several different directions and then go back and hit it all with the circular motion to even it all out. Because you don't want any high spots, you don't want any low spots. You want to keep this as even as possible. So I do a big general area, and then if I need to, I'll go back and concentrate on areas. Spots like the pickup, see how wide that is? You want to work on it like that. So you're working across the whole pickup cavity. Otherwise, this part here, you'll dip that out. And it'll, you know, like this, it'll swish it out. You might go too far. So you want to do it like that. Be real careful. You might have to just be real delicate and go lengthwise a little bit. Depends on how bad it is. And then, you know, through this area here, you want that nice and flat. You're going to try to work that whole area there and around the controls. You have to be careful when you're applying the paint, the glitter, the clear, everything, because if these things get too thick, then your switches and your knobs aren't going to work. So you want to take your time there. You may have to take the corner of it and put a little bit more pressure and just do a little bit of a circle right around there where the washers are going to go to make sure that so that your knobs will fit. And if you have any real problems with it where they don't fit, then the best thing to do is flip it over and work on the inside and try to take material off the inside so you don't screw up the way the outside looks. Then you can always go back with some shielding paint and touch that up before you put it back together. Okay, I've gone over the front with a light touch because this stuff isn't very thick yet. But I only did it for about 2 minutes. I mean, it didn't take much at all to take this down because I just painted this yesterday, so this paint's pretty thick, pretty soft yet. So you can see the shiny parts and the dull parts. The dull parts is where I sanded. The shiny parts are the depressions that I'm going to be filling in somewhat with this next coat of paint. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of it and then put 4 or 5 coats of paint of clear on it again, and then we'll see what it looks like. All right, after 5 good coats today, we're getting a lot smoother. Still got a lot of texture, but you can see it's not near as bad as it was. Another round of sanding, another round of paint, another round of sanding, another round of paint. Then we should be about ready for the stripes. All right, it's been about 13 and a half hours since I put those coats of clear on last night. So I'm going to go ahead and throw 4 or 5 more coats on today, this morning early, while this paint's still fresh before I start sanding it, because I don't want to take any chances of cutting into that sparkle. Oh no, look what I just did to this Ibanez Iceman. Oh man, look at that. I took that weird curly-Q thing off the back. I took that penis looking thing off the front. It looks more metal now. And I took that extra crap off the headstock that stuck out too far and just looked silly. So now it looks like a metal guitar. This one's going to get painted, I don't know what yet, but it's going to be metal! I've got 4 coats of clear on this. I got 1 more to go. I sanded it level after those 2 rounds of clear I did yesterday and the day before. So as you can see, it's looking pretty slick. I had a little spot there I had to dig some dirt out and then fill that back in with a little bit of glitter. So that's going to smooth out okay. So I'm going to give it one more coat. So I got a little bit extra right there to work with. So this video, I'm going to wrap this one up and post it. And tomorrow, sand it and do the pinstripes. So I'll do a whole video just on the pinstripes. And then after the pinstripes are done, I'll slap another coat of clear on it, let it dry, sand it, and one more coat of clear on the whole thing, and then it'll hang around for a month.